going to show you how to make these pendants from mold through patina with much room for your own interpretation. The very first step is to gather your plants. I'm going to show you two ways to make molds, and first up I'm using Sculpey, which is low cost and can be fired in a conventional oven. I'm flattening it here with my acrylic roller to a little larger than I want my pendant to be, and I'm going to use my favorite release agent to make sure my plants come out easily. I'll arrange the plant how I want it to look in the final piece, which, depending on the plant, might take more than one try. The clear acrylic roller helps me ensure nothing shifts as I press it down. And this lovely fresh piece of wisteria has given a crisp impression. So we will do it again. Release agent can also protect the clay from sticking to the roller, and more release agent, this time for the plants. And then in goes my second plant. Press firmly, lift slowly, and with luck it will come off in one piece. More shallow than the first, but nice, and I'm not worried about dust to this point at all. So a third mold, this time with shepherd's purse, and much faster this time. I think the fun of these pieces is how you arrange the plants. And once that's set, press evenly, and you can see how the release agent is making sure the clay peels off easily. If you have trouble, nudge the edges up all the way around first rather than peeling up from one side. If you have difficulty picking out your plants, you can manually smooth out some details like this. Fire your Sculpey according to package directions, and then here's how experimenting comes into play. I used my 3 molds with silver clay and found I didn't care for the results from my shepherd's purse Sculpey mold, so I used the same plant to make a different kind of mold from 2-part silicone compound. Because this plant is so shallow and the details are so fine, this gave me results I preferred. After mixing the 2 parts quickly and thoroughly together, I pressed it flat with my fingers and then again arranged my plants, making sure that the surface is larger than I want my pendant to be. Here I am nudging it loose from the edges so that it doesn't warp when I pull it off. So all of these molds so far, because we press the plants in, are going to result in silver pendants where the plants are raised. To create the opposite effect with plant designs that are recessed into your pendant, you can essentially make a stamp by using your silicone in your fired Sculpey mold. In this way you can make an outie where you had an innie and vice versa. This really comes down to what kind of design you want. If the plant design is impressed into the silver and you sulfur or darken the piece, the plant itself will be dark while the rest of your pendant is light. If your plant is raised in silver, then when you polish the sulfur off high surfaces, your plant will be silver and the rest of your pendant will be darker. Here I am using my silicone outie stamps to make inward impressions in the silver clay. I can leave it with this raw organic edge or give it a specific shape using a template. Choosing the right template comes down to how big I want the pendant to be, remembering about 15% shrinkage in firing. I'm pressing down gently to make a mark with my template, and now I'm going to make a clear cutout with my blade, following the lines made by the template. On the top left, you can see an inward wisteria, and center is an outward wisteria. I am going to add a frame to this piece. This means rolling a snake evenly until it is long enough to wrap the circumference of my pendant and then some. I want overlap. Better to start with more clay and cut as needed. I'm going to join my snake to my medallion using water, just wetting it as much as you see here, enough to make a joint all the way around. I can reinforce this from the back, but I want to make sure there's good contact when it goes on. Once I join the ends, using water and gentle pressure, or a little silver clay paste if you have it, I will let it air dry for a few minutes before going in to add my detail. What exactly you do here comes down to how you'd like it to look. You can see here as I come to the end, it's a little wet, so go gently. Here I'm making a pilot hole, and then hand drilling my hole. And now it is ready for the kiln. Right after firing, they look like this. This is unpolished, fired silver clay. I'm going to sulfur the whole batch. You should never add sulfur to boiling water, and I do this outside for safety. In they go, and you can see in real time how quickly the darkening begins. Once I add all the pieces, I'm going to keep them moving for an even treatment. If a piece is stuck to the bottom of your jar, or maybe laying flat against another piece, it might darken more on the top or bottom. They go through a spectrum of colors until they're dark gray. Then the jewelry is ready to come out and be rinsed, and I safely dispose of the sulfur. Please read all safety instructions associated with using liver of sulfur. Once my pendants are washed, they're ready for sanding, which is my favorite method to remove sulfur from the high points and give contrast to the detail in your silver. This is the 3M Ultrafine Sanding Pad, which is the second step up from their finest grit, but there are many companies that offer a sanding paper or stick in a similar grit. I love the reveal. If at any point you remove too much and realize you wish it was darker, you can repeat the liver of sulfur process. And here you can see in my wisteria at left and right the difference between an inward impression and a raised plant. Last steps for mine were a quick tumble polish and add chains, and they're ready to wear. Jewelry available at bluedotjewelry.com.